So, when you did your podcast, did you get nervous?
hmm
Like for recording or for even doing anything?
No,
Yeah, me neither.
I get the
Hey, folks. Welcome to the show. First one, inaugural podcast, Hobby Random Go. I'm Ryan. This is Mike. And yeah, we decided to start a series because, what is it? We met up weekly for hobby hangouts for a while now, right?
on and off fairly consistently for 6 months,
6 months ish. Yeah, like
maybe.
for us, that's the most commitment we've ever
Yeah,
done. Yeah,
yeah,
but we
yeah.
met like a while ago, over 10 years ago, over Malifaux, and
Yep.
so and I think we're both in the stage of our lives where we're more into the hobby aspect than the gaming. You would say, like we enjoy
Yeah,
gaming, but I don't know. I get
yeah.
more out of it from the
Absolutely,
hobby side. Yeah.
absolutely. Well, I mean, we've talked about this, over and over again, but with kiddos taking a new phase in life and work and everything else, it's tabletop gaming. For every hour on the table, there's x number of hours of prep and study and figuring out the meta and all of that, list building and running
All
the
to
what
all
ifs
to get
and
stomped.
yeah. Well, I mean, that aside, but just to get to the table and feel good getting to the table, there's just a sizable chunk of time that I just can't afford to set aside at this stage.
Yeah.
And so the our little hobby hangouts started coming around because the time I could carve out was once or twice a week after the kids go to bed. So this is basically the kids go to bed and I walk across the hall and into the hobby room, and then we were just like, hey, what?
Let's
Let's
hold each
catch
other
up.
accountable.
One, hold
Yeah.
each other accountable, move something forward, and then you know try to just enjoy what pieces of the hobby that we can find ourselves
Yeah,
getting a hold of.
for sure. Because, like, I know without our weekly hangouts, I don't have anything to hold me to actually do something, and months will go by where, like, I don't work on anything.
Yeah.
And it's
Oh
and
yeah.
it's like for me, it's not that I don't have time. It's like I don't have a focus.
hmm
So, it'll be good for us to
Yeah.
talk that out as well. Which, speaking of, what are you working on right now?
I mean, I don't know.
You don't know yet. You just pittering.
No, I mean, right now the plates I'm spinning are uh I've got this little guy
Yeah.
that scratch build for Tonks that we did at Christmas with my dad and brother. Um had an idea, got it going and forgot. Not forgot, but got stalled. Uh Gasland's car I was messing with last time we talked. The big thing right now is that I really should get my RC down and start cleaning and
Yeah,
prepping
you've got that
that
event coming
rig.
up.
I've got like 2 weeks from now. It has to be trail worthy and
So,
photo worthy.
so I'm just gonna work on this Gasland stuff. That seems
Yeah,
it seems right. Yeah, feels
yeah. You
right.
gotta look. Procrastination is a tool, and that's what I'm doing right now.
I thrive
Is I'm
off adrenaline.
thinking about what I need to do over there.
I
It's
study
way up
best the
there,
day before the test.
and Gaslands is right here.
Yeah.
So
So like I know I did a live stream on Psylocke painting that Marvel Zombicide model, which let me tell you, I didn't mention like I was loving the model till I got to the face. There's like a tiny little mold
yeah,
line right in the middle of her face. And I was getting like super frustrated painting that. Like I was like, I normally don't have problems with faces, but this lady's turning out pretty derpy.
the one time you wish you had cleaned up a
Yeah,
mold line.
like in front of everybody. Well, like I didn't clean any of it, I realized. Like I just primed it because I wanted to paint it.
Well, you never do. That's what I'm
Well, I mean,
saying.
I do. I pretend to for a little bit. I get the big ones out of the way. But yeah, other than that, I've been working on like Hawkeye from the same line. And then I was like prepping other models to get ready too. But I need
Yeah,
to get back onto the Malifaux train. So like, because I haven't painted a Malifaux model in a little bit. So I need to
today I
get on
almost
that.
dipped in my drink. Yeah, today in Malifaux terrain. Where are we? Where are
Oh,
we at with that?
I moved it. across the room. No, I was thinking of a format of how I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
But like terrain's always been like a big hump for me, I guess, because
Yeah.
it's such a large surface area and it's not something I normally paint. Even though like I'm pretty happy with how I do my terrain. Not it's like I don't get to do too many of the normal things I do, and it's a lot of earth neutral tones, which is
Yeah.
bleh.
That's your favorite. It's where
I
you
want
feel
some
most
hot pink
comfortable.
everywhere.
It's where you cut your teeth.
Yeah, but it'll be good it'll be good practice because I usually just do everything like stony gray. So with like buildings and stuff, I haven't painted a building in a very long time that wasn't like
Oh,
some stone ruin.
okay. So,
I have ideas though. Like I was thinking of doing like some green with red shading for like the walls and like
yeah.
some light blue roofing, but outside of that, like I kind of run out of ideas cuz I kind of just like the like I usually think of it in blocks and like you
Yeah.
want your terrain to kind of blend in with the table, but at the same time I want it to stand out. So
Yeah.
like all the normal crazy kooky colors I do, like I don't know how to apply that to a building, you know?
I mean, do you do it via, some exaggerated OSL?
I was thinking of that, like some hot oranges from the lights and stuff. But
Or just it doesn't even have to be lights on the model. Just
no,
like if you
yeah.
put them all, if you arrange them in a U, there's some you could hint to something off screen,
Yeah, like rim lighting or like um
I'm talking about like a whole face of the building washed in.
so I had
So
a
like
cool
think
idea
like
of like a
think like
shadow like
like a teal sunset,
yeah, yeah.
and what does that look
I
like?
had a cool idea of that, like of painting it like it's in the night, because a lot of Malifaux art is
Yeah,
nighttime, and I was thinking of doing a shadow of like Seamus, like with his top hat and stuff.
you could do that
So
for every building. Ooh, you could do every building has a silhouette, but then the silhouette of the model then dictates the color scheme of
that's
the whole
true.
building.
I was thinking of other shadowy type things too, like shadow monsters, like Dreamer. Well, what's his name? Chompy Bits, like
Yep,
a form of
Lord
that, or
Chuckleberry.
Huggy. Like
Yeah,
creeping up on a unsuspecting person, not facing them, or something like that.
yeah,
And like always going extravagant. I was basically like, what else can I do to this other than just khaki, like or
yeah,
gray, something that makes
yeah,
it have some character, even though like the model itself has tons of character, which
yeah.
intimidates me. But because it's a lot of detail, it's like a ton of detail. It's probably like one of the best terrain kits I've seen, but
So
that's a lot.
okay, so along those lines, a lot of times terrain, unless you're talking about like GW, that's
That's true,
just
yeah.
skulls, 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 skulls.
Where are
Um,
the rib cages?
right.
where are
Well,
the
there's
where are the hip
they tend
bones?
to they tend to be. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just I might be out of touch, but they tend to be fairly mundane, and
They're getting like kind of
so
crazy, like cool.
yeah.
But you're
Well, I
right, they
guess
have a motif.
or just outside of GW. I mean, the GW is GW, but otherwise they tend to be fairly boring or straightforward. Um, and so you're saying you don't want to do khaki because oftentimes that terrain ends up being just these large flat planes of color.
Yeah. And
And
it
I
lends
haven't.
itself to some sort of dry brush. Like they're really good at designing stuff for that person in mind. But
Yeah,
yeah, it is like it's like tiling, like a repeated
yeah,
tile set in some aspects. So like with weirds, I get intimidated by the sheer surface area of it. But at the
hmm,
same time, I'm like, well, this might give me some practice with, say, like airbrush and oil wash, like
hmm.
figure out ways to do it in that aspect. So I've been planning around how to paint it, but it's one of those like I've got 2 weeks away from it, so I'm gonna work on Gaslands in my mind.
I was
Like,
literally about to say. You mean
yeah,
it's kind of like I don't want to. you know.
Yeah, because you build up how big of a job it is, you
Hmm.
know. So that's why I tend to do better when there's a deadline, because at some point that adrenaline rush is going to have to kick in and I'm going to have to get stuff done. Like the last time I painted that much terrain was when we did like that game demo day for Malifaux, and I painted up all that graveyard terrain really quick and the buildings, like.
Yeah,
But I mean, that was a pain, and but that
yeah,
that's what's also good about having an airbrush is like you can knock through that stuff pretty quick if you know the tricks.
sure. What I'm trying to. I mean, having not being familiar with the models themselves, I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to think of ways that I can. Well, how do you? Is there a way to break the planes? You said there's a lot of tiling work and things like that. Are
Oh, in
you?
the GW side of things is what I was meaning. With
Oh,
this
oh,
one,
I'm talking
there's
about the
like
Malifaux stuff.
so many little details that like give it so much character, like
Okay.
the spires, the tiling on the roof, and the fact that they're multi levels that can stack with different parts of the buildings. Like they can all interchange with each other, and they have
Ooh, okay.
interiors. So yeah, like the thing like that I'm gonna have to repractice is because you know me, like I'm really bad with brown. Like it doesn't like it's something that
Yeah.
just doesn't click with me. Well, there's barrels and there's wooden stuff, and so like I'm gonna have to figure out how do I make distressed wood that doesn't make me want to throw the thing out because my browns feel so boring. So I'm gonna have to throw in stuff like green glazes and like airbrush some like mossy parts on it. I was gonna experiment with some like steel wool, like spraying over steel wool kind of stuff. You know,
Yeah.
masking is another one, like a soft mask, like where you hold like a card up, like you don't actually put it on the model, you just block
Yeah.
half your spray with it, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
I mean, you can also. I mean, it is a fantasy setting. You
True.
know, I mean, we can call it steampunk, Victorian, Wild Westy, but at the end of the day, it's still a fantastical setting. Nothing says your wood has to be a natural wood, what we would consider natural wood.
I have done
Yeah.
like for my my kitty crew, what is that? The Nightmare Edition Hamlin.
Okay.
You know how they're all cats. I like leaned into a Tim Burton or and like actually the thing that came in my head when I painted that was Batman. Batman and Robin, like Batman
Hmm.
Forever, the Joel Schumacher ones.
Right.
And so I
Well,
made it
I
I
was
made it
gonna
hot
say,
green wood. Like so
yeah,
and it worked really well.
yeah,
So, yeah.
yep,
Like that's why this is also why I love meeting up for these things cuz we can hash this stuff out because I didn't even think about that for say wood. Is like I could make it green wood if I wanted to.
mhm. You
Like
can make it in same thing, any natural material, right?
yeah.
So like everything's brown because on this side of the planet, or at least even then, regional soils are going to be different. So you move from one part of the country to the other, and the brick changes colors, or slate roofs. You know,
Mhm.
like natural materials, it's going to change. So set you out a moving over to that fantastical Malifaux setting. There are no rules, and so if you could make up lore and say that like it's a fancy house, so they paid a lot of
It's
money
a
to
purple
have a
tree.
very or the brick is naturally purple because there's some deposit of one particular place to pull dirt from, clay from, that then the whole house is made out of this. And then you could set that world building up, and so every time you do another piece of terrain in that world,
Yeah.
if it's an upper class, it'll be purple brick. If it's a middle class, it'll be this color. If it's
Mhm.
lower class, it's ramshackle or a hodgepodge, and you can have patches of purple where they're trying to snazzy things up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like they do in the real world. Like the facade will be purple brick, but then the sides will be
Yeah, and they have
wooden
like I think they
siding.
have like vegetation on it too. Like that's easier for
Sure.
me to go fantastical with, but you're right. Like
Yeah.
I didn't think about like stonework doesn't have to be like the brickwork doesn't have to be maroon red, you know? Like
Mm-mm.
it's just what I naturally join. That's also why I
Yeah.
avoid it because I'm like that's where I naturally land is like how do I make this look natural? And I'm like, "Oh no, I'm going to go into the whole Batman Forever vibe. We're going to go lime green and stuff."
Yeah.
And the other
Oh
cool
yeah.
thing about their terrain is they have like posters and like blank face sign kind of things.
Okay.
So I was trying to think of fun ways to integrate into that. That's like either Malifaux or just silly, like
Yeah.
dead bodies here,
Yeah.
deposit dead here, that kind of stuff. Or like wanted
I mean,
posters, maybe try to freehand a Seamus face.
yeah. I mean, not to be macabre, and I would not recommend doing this just for being irreverent. But I mean, there are languages to describe. So like Katrina, when they were doing houses, they do the X, and it would like
Yeah,
tell you it's
yeah.
been searched
Last of Us
and
has
whatever.
that too. Yeah,
Yeah, same
yeah,
thing. You
yeah.
know, I mean, I don't rip as someone from Louisiana. Do not rip that off and just
Well,
put it straight on your buildings.
no, I mean,
But
but
that
making up something
come up
similar.
with a system that denotes
Yeah,
that's easily legible or whatever.
Do you- that just made me think of Walking Dead. There's like a subreddit called Dead Open Don't Inside or like something
Oh yeah,
yeah, Inside Open or something like that because they wrote
yeah.
it top, bottom, left, and right. Maybe I
Oh
do that on a door. Don't dead open inside.
yeah.
But yeah, like that's something I will have to work on. Thanks for reminding me. Oh man. So what else are you working on?
What else? I've got that cleaning up Marsa. We've got that big bot bash we were talking about last time we hung out.
Yeah.
Bill making stuff is doing, I believe, for the month of March is his.
Are you gonna roll one?
I would like to. I don't know how feasible it is, just because I
So
got this week. Next week is spring break with the kids. Or no, excuse me. I've got next week. The week after that is spring break with the kids. My father-in-law is in town. The week after that, I'm leaving for what you call it. So if if I was on brand, I would stop what I'm doing right now and start kit bashing a giant robot.
So
Which
for
I'm
for the
not
folks at home, explain away what
What,
the
Big
event
Bot
is.
Bash?
Yeah,
Which event? The RC event or the Big Bot Bash?
Big Bot Bash.
There is a creator on YouTube that I really enjoy, Bill making stuff. Um, I recently stumbled onto kit bashing miniatures, scratch building YouTube. Somehow it has not come across my algorithms until probably the last 6 months or so. And Bill making stuff is one of them that I really enjoy. And he has been creating this whole world with Gutter Lands.
Hmm.
And in it, so like, I just picked, yes, I like my brush.
That's. I
So
was just gonna point that out. You disgusting fool.
he self-published two games. There's Bangarang in the Gutterlands, and then there is a skirmish game, based in his world. He does all the artwork himself. He chronicles creating the artwork and like building the lore and all of that. It's really well done, and it's fun. It's very much beer and pretzels light gaming,
Hmm.
and for March is Big Bot Bash. There is a Junkbot Generator. You can grab a free copy of the generator, I believe, on his website. But it kind of leads you through rolling a d20 and gives you parameters to create a mini for either game, but specifically for Bangarang. And this month, if you do it, post it and use, I think, the hashtag Big Bot Bash Challenge or something like that. Yeah, so it's the first time I'll be able to participate in it. So
All
it's a
right.
good
Well, I
time.
mean, one every time I hear Bangarang, I think of the Skrillex song.
That's what you think of
Yeah,
for
yeah.
Bangarang? Okay,
I know. It's on Hook, and I love that movie, which I
it's
found.
on hook.
Well, it's Hook, right? Like
It's on
that's the
hook. Anyway,
reference. It's on the
yes, yes,
hook.
it's
It's
on
on
the
the
hook.
movie Hook. Is that not the proper note?
Sure.
Like, oh, they don't know. We both get extremely pedantic over this. You so more than I, but I
What are we
like to
talking?
also being, like on the hook or on hook,
Yes.
like being pedantic. I just like to poke
Mm-hmm.
you on that stuff.
Uh-huh. Yep. Yep.
But like No, like that's a. I remember we did a little dry run of that of like what it would look like rolling random ones, and even doing that,
It's silly and
it got
fun.
my juices going. It got me
Right.
going.
Yeah. I mean, tables, I mean, Bangarang does it. I think there's another small game, Mork Bowl, that has a random table generator for your teams. Um, Tonks is another one that's just it's just a good time.
Yeah,
I'm really, especially with the kids, the small games, light rules, pick it up and play a couple d6 and you're good to go.
yeah.
Um, is really kind of coming into its own.
Well, that's also like that reminds me of something else I'm working on is the Stargrave crew. Like
Hmm.
it's a miniatures forward, like hobby forward. Like
Yeah,
you get to make your own kind of thing and it fits
yeah.
these, agnostic rule sets. Like that's I've always been into that sort of stuff. Like even like a long time ago I got into Super System even though no one else has it just because like I like creating characters and then having an excuse to use them with the rules
Yep.
set. But that's also why I love
Absolutely.
Malifaux. Like they have so many cool characters and then a solid rule set to
Yeah.
follow through with
Th-
it.
They've definitely done the heavy lifting on world building
Yeah, and
for
it's
sure.
like, oh, when they come out with kits, like every once in a while, I'll go through cycles where I paint like board game stuff or other miniatures, like core space, other things like that. And then when I go back to
Hmm.
Malifaux, I'm like, oh, it's like the brush like flows through with some of that stuff. It's easy to
No,
paint it because, or easy to get inspired to paint it because like their kits are so even though assembling can be a pain, the finished product looks so good and like so creative and different that it's like whenever I painted that Hoffman alternate crew, the dragon and like the guy on the horse, like I didn't even have to think twice as to what I wanted to do because
yeah.
it was so different than what I'm used to painting. But yeah, so
So, how much do you? It's something I've never thought about in the past. I'm sure that GW, if you look at GW models, they are sculpted specifically. Well, not specifically, but I definitely think that there's some intention behind their designs
hmm
to allow for people to to allow people to get in there, and your average gamer who is looking to just get their minis painted, three colors and on the table,
yeah,
come
it
in
appeals to
there.
wide skill sets. Like whether
Yeah,
you're just
and
starting or whether you're advanced.
right. A beginners can go in and get a passable job, and then advanced can really make them shine. But I never really thought about it, but I wonder how much the weird folks are, you know, minis sculpted for people, for painters by painters. Like how many other sculptors are actually painters? Because
Yeah. It feels
it,
like
it, it
it's sculpted after the art, right? Like cuz it seems to hit the art pretty closely.
yes,
So,
yeah,
I think it's more like rule of cool
that's fair.
because I will have some very big difficulties painting them, like as an advanced painter. Like,
Yeah,
and then even then, sometimes the art doesn't translate over. Like whenever I was painting the Alt Hoffman, it didn't occur to me till I was already painting it. Like this guy has one horn and the art has two. Like they forgot the horn, or it feels like it. So I don't think it's so. I mean, it's my opinion. I don't know for sure, but it just feels like it's more like it follows the art rather
sure.
than is this easier for people to paint because they certainly don't do that on the modeling side whenever they cut off your ankle, like
So
on
I
the
don't
gremlin
necessarily
models.
mean easy,
Oh, okay.
ease of painting. I think, like you were saying, I think you said something along the lines of like it just lets you flow through the model.
Yeah.
So like moving through the model, laying down the paint, and that's not necessarily from how easy it is to get the model down,
Oh, like how cool will it look
like
painted?
how cool will it look or
Oh,
how
for
inspiring the
sure.
model look.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at. So like
Yeah.
they're not necessarily hiding behind. They are heavily detailed
Yeah.
and finely sculpted. That is not what I'm saying. I think the level of ornamentation and the way that they build the ornamentation is not, they're not following that GW model where you can come in and do a heavy
Mm.
wash, do some dry brushing and you're
For better
done.
or worse, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's appealing to the, I guess, more advanced painters can look in there and see some opportunity to really let their skills shine by making more with less. If that makes sense,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. Like I know, I
I'm
think
saying
you're.
all this, and
I
I'm painting my missiles pink. So, mm,
well, like I do know that I out of all the ranges I've painted, it's the one that gets me the inspire. Like it gives me a wide range of inspiration more so than anything else. Like I
sure,
painted a lot of War Machine, and it felt like the faction when you stick within a faction, you're painting almost the same stuff all the time. And
yeah,
it's sort of the same thing with when I painted Warhammer. It's like if you're painting a Space Marine or Space Marine faction, so to speak, or chapter,
your chapter.
you're
Yeah.
getting pretty much the same flavor of ice cream across the range. And like
Hmm.
you know, the for you to get different takes, you'd have to switch factions entirely. And then when you
Yeah.
go to Malifaux, it's like even within the same keyword or the same crew, you're getting different
Yeah.
flavors. Like, of course, like if you pick Perdita, you're gonna get a lot of the same tones, but you're gonna get different textures of clothing, even though
Yeah. They're
they're all the
following
same family.
they're following a theme. They're
Yeah.
not, they're
But
not all
like
pulling from the
if
theme.
you're in Outcasts, like I played Outcasts for the most part, like you can get Leviticus and you've got that horror and stuff, so you can go all gruesome, or you can go cowboy, you know, Parker and all them,
Yeah.
or steampunk with Von Schill and Hannah and them. Like you get a wide range, and then you can even go sort of alienish with Tiri, which is a newer one you may not be as familiar with. They're in the
Hmm.
Explorer faction, so
Oh, okay.
like there's such a wide range, and even within like I switched to Arcanists recently, and it's like okay, you have Mei Feng, the original, which has like martial arts with steampunk. But then you get the
Hmm.
alternate, and it's like, welcome to cyberpunk, you know, like
Yeah.
so you get such a wide range that, and not only that, like you mentioned earlier, it's such a well sculpted, well like designed set of models. It's like
Yeah.
it's kind of like the Cadillac of painting for me. Like it
Yeah.
just feels like it inspires me so much more than other
Yeah.
ranges I've painted, which is nothing to say about bad about other ranges. It's just like
Yeah.
it's just hits different when you paint
Yeah.
Malifaux, and like especially when I switch and I start painting a lot of like Cool Mini or Not board game stuff, or like it'll be fun. Like I'm painting Marvel Zombies right now, and it's fun. But when I switch back to Malifaux stuff, I'm like, whoo, this is either gonna go really well or really badly because like it sometimes it's really hard to paint them, but for the most part, like I can't wait to paint them. Like once I start getting in a groove, like
Hmm.
it's so well sculpted sometimes that it's just
Yeah.
like it paints so much easier.
Yep. I agree.
So yeah.
Oh, there's my.
So now outside of that, we got some random stuff to go through. Like
What?
so one of the things I wanted to talk about are like things we're watching, things that we're consuming that may or may not relate to the hobby side of things. And one of the things that I wanted to bring up was a show I started watching on Apple TV called Silo. Have you heard of this?
I've heard of it. I've heard of it and I've seen clips, but I don't have Apple TV, so
Yeah, we only
I cannot
started a
watch it.
trial to watch Severance, and it turns out they have like quite a few good shows. And
Yeah.
Silo is one of them, and we just blazed through two seasons. But like one of the reasons why I wanted to bring it up, it's like one, it's really good TV. Like it's like the allegory of the cave on crack, you know?
Yeah.
Like so it's really good. It gave me like Giver vibes and like some other sci-fi dystopian sort of things. But one
Sure.
of the cool things I wanted to bring it up for was its color palette. Like
Oh, okay.
it's very heavy on the teal and orange like a lot of TV shows are now. But they
Yep.
do it's kind of like how when you first watched The Matrix in the 90s and they would do so many different variations of green when you're in the Matrix. Like I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember that,
Yeah.
right?
I know what you're talking about.
So they do a lot of different variations of olives, and then like teal is also another accent color, And with the oranges, like with the practical lights they do it was a good take on what could be a lot of boring tones. And like now I'm excited to try out like olive and orange, which is something I hadn't done in a long time, because I usually don't like. I was going through an olive kick for a little bit, but it was always like boring. I did olive and red, like maroon, which is a good contrast. But now I'm like, oh, I want to try undercoating like hot orange and then spraying over it with like olive and see what that looks like and take that to a cool tone.
Okay, cool. So one, I was looking up silo color palettes. I heard what you were saying.
Yeah.
Now I know, because I know Ryan Cruz, I know that you will probably knee jerk say, no, I don't want it. However, have you gone to coolers? Have we talked about coolers? I feel like we've
No.
talked about coolers way long ago.
I already have an Arctic.
If you have your computer
Okay.
or the internet's handy, go to coolors, COOLORS.co. And what this is a color palette generator.
Oh,
I don't know if we've
God.
talked about it.
It
I
says
know.
.co, C-O, not .com.
Yeah. So I am not telling you that you need to go on the random generator and let it generate color palettes for you. However, what you can do is you can start building color palettes and say, I want to start with this color, and then start building things and let it suggest possible options. And then you can like work your way down. And so it's a way of trial running things that you may not have thought of before.
Okay.
I know. I know.
Ah.
You immediately are going to delete this from your history and pretend it never existed.
No,
I'm just
I'll look
saying.
at it. So, like, you start the generator or you explore?
So I would share my screen, but I'm on my laptop. I'm doing this anyway. The point is, so it starts with like press the space bar and it'll just generate a random color palette.
Mm-hmm.
But you can delete the colors, and then you can like view a shade of purple, and then you can change it, and then I think you can start adding more.
Okay.
So the point being is that, or like you can grab a photo from Silo and then upload the photo, and it'll like generate a palette that says, hey, this is how you can get kind of close, or like, hey, what colors, what am I seeing? What am I not seeing? What are the predominant ones? And it'll break it down for you.
Is it like following rules? Like
that, I don't know.
Like it goes off of the opposite side of the wheel first, or?
I honestly don't know. I think I used to have a account, and then I quit it.
I'll try it out. Like
but yeah, I mean,
seems interesting.
It's worth looking into, just to try it.
It doesn't feel like painting with the wind and the colors of the wind, but
no,
it will help whenever I'm trying to figure out like this building stuff, like we were talking about earlier.
Okay, so you have to go to the paid version to unlock everything. But like for the generation methods, right now it just has it on auto, but you can tell it, monochromatic, analogous, complementary, split, triadic, tetradic, square. I know.
You lost me.
I know. It's your passive aggressive.
I just want magic. I don't want science of colors and tertiaries.
That's just it. You don't have to think about any of that.
That might help. Yeah, that it does that.
This is built for you. You can say, no, I don't like it, or yes, I do like it.
Okay.
Or generate, keep that one, redo the rest. And then just like click generate. You don't have to know. There's a whole bunch of hamsters behind the curtain. You never have to see what they are.
That might appeal a little bit more, because I will admit I do get a little stale on colors. Like once I start figuring out combos I like, I stay in that box. And so this might help me break out of it. But like especially with what is that called when you just add white to stuff? Pastel colors. Like that might help because I
Uh,
tended to get stuck. Like I don't like that pastel color stuff.
yeah.
But
Or
there's
or
secrets to it, like there's
sure.
juice to it.
And well, and I'm also thinking along the lines of, you're painting up a crew and you get your primary color and pick a primary color. Well, then if you want to add some variety, then you can use that as your primary color that stays main across all your models. And then you can tell it, keep this, and then
And give me
generate three
alternates,
or four.
right? Yeah, because
Hmm.
I'm used to doing that through line. Like turquoise would be a main color, and then I know how to play off of it with reds and oranges and blues,
Yeah.
and like if I wanted to add to it or if I wanted to contrast with it. But like for certain other colors, like brown, I'm stuck. Like I don't know what else to do with that. So
Right.
this will be a good resource. I'll explore it. I have it open as a tab. I'm not gonna just delete it. I'll try.
Yeah.
You know?
And all the caveats in place. It is a source of inspiration. It is not
Yeah.
a dictation. And so, as with all things, just by going through and looking at it and going, oh, I don't like that. I don't like that.
Yeah.
You're
But that's
playing guess who with your paint range,
That's sort of what
and
I do, but it's in a different application. Like I'm looking for it in TV, like Silo. I'm looking for it in
yeah,
comics or on Pinterest when I look at character designs and stuff that
yeah,
other people do. But it's not a target. It's just like I know what I'll like when I see it, sort of thing. And then
yeah,
I'll pick a color based off of that. But this one will
right,
be a more generalized way, which is like I think I'll probably start with here's a khaki because I don't know what to do other than like those are people's pants that pop off of like a blue or something like that. But
yeah,
when that's the main color, I'm
yeah.
lost. You know?
Uh, yeah, I can't remember when I ran across it years ago, but it was the idea of being able to pull together, like, you pull your inspiration from anywhere, whether it's a screenshot from a movie or a TV show
Hmm.
or an advertisement you might see. You can grab it and then upload it to Coolers, and then it'll generate the color palette. Like, here's the main color that you're seeing. Here's the secondary, tertiary,
Hmm.
and all that. Like, here's all the colors in their purport, like in their order of, like, the reason why these four colors look this way is because this one is given more weight than the second one.
I
And
mean, and I
so,
do that in a sort of fashion. Like it's just I'm
yeah, oh
interpreting it
yeah,
in a different way. I'm just like I don't like when it's told to me.
I know.
Especially when they say words about it like tertiary. Ugh, just yeah, you're right though. Like if you give me the infographic of it, it
Yeah,
instantly sits in my mind. But if you put it in a paragraph form or like on that color wheel where it's like this is what tertiary, I'm like
no, no,
I don't
I
want to
know.
read a
I know.
wiki on it.
No, this will tell, and it gives you color. So in the event, it's geared towards, I think, graphic designers or interior designers. So it'll tell
Hmm.
you like the Pantone colors. So then you can go off and find it for your. You
Yeah.
can upload. They have graphics logos, so you can upload a black and white version of your grab of your logo, and then tell it your color, and it'll goof around with the color
Yeah.
combinations and things like that. So again,
See, I just
it's
pick on the
not
little Procreate wheel.
sure.
Like
No,
that looks
no,
fine.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And again, it's never a making a decision for you. It's just, I know personally, over the years we've talked about getting stuck in a rut,
Hmm.
and sometimes you just need something that's just so jarringly different or
That
wrong, it
it'll.
pulls you out of your rut
Yeah.
because you got to say, no, 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 I like that, like this, and suddenly you're out of the rut and you're moving off in a different direction.
Yeah. Not only that,
So,
you'll learn how to apply it to what you're comfortable with. Like
mhm.
because whenever I started working more with throw in different colors to turn things darker rather than just
Mhm.
black. Because for a while I was just adding in black to make things darker or white to make things lighter.
Yeah,
And it kind of creates like a like you mentioned whenever I was throwing in whites, pastels, right? So then I started going like, well, how do I shade red darker than other than add a dark red and then to a
mhm.
black? It's like, oh, throw in purple, like or
Mhm.
blues to turn it into purple. Like once I started going into that, I'm like, holy crap! Let me add that to what I already am comfortable doing to make it go down to black, and suddenly you
Yeah,
make a more interesting non-metallic metal or something,
yeah,
like so that is a good resource to introduce so that when I get stuck on something, it's like, all right, let me go to coolers.co with an O.
yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty cool. But that was
Yeah.
my other thing that to bring up that was unrelated. That's sort of related, other than like Altered Carbon and The Expanse. Like, have
Yeah.
you watched The Expanse, right?
Uh, most of the first season, yes,
Yeah,
and I
like
read the book.
Christy's reading it for her book club, and then it's funny because
Okay.
now we're rewatching. I was already rewatching it up to the third season,
Yeah.
and then I was like, you know what we can do is rewatch the first one now that you're reading the book. And while we were watching it, I was like, I don't know if you recall this, but when we first watched it, when we first came on, you hated this. Like, I don't like this kind of show. And now she's like, I love the world building, which is just like our world, but with extras. So, like, we're
Yeah.
rewatching that, and I'm rewatching Altered Carbon so that I can get some cyberpunk inspiration for when I do the new Mei Feng crew. Because you've seen what that one looks
Oh
like,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, that one's gonna be
Yeah.
bonkers. So I'm trying to look it up for some basing inspiration, which we've talked about before. But
Yeah.
yeah, so what have you been watching or consuming?
Uh, so I guess an old standby or a recurring one, and then a new one. The new one is I finally sat down and finished Scavenger's Reign on Netflix.
Oh, you finished it?
It's fun. Yeah,
I
so good,
didn't get past a few episodes because
so
it'd
good.
be freaky. But
It
I
is.
do need to finish it though.
I love me some slow creeping like cosmic horror.
Oh my gosh, it was so
Um,
dreadful. Like,
it's
ugh.
so good.
Like it reminded me of being a kid and then like staying up late and then turning the channel and like Eon Flux comes on and it's the middle of the season. You have no
Well,
idea what's going on.
yeah, yeah,
You
and
know?
so I'm always so you mentioned Eon Flux. That's Eon Flux, and I'm drawing a blank on the other ones that it makes me think of. But Eon Flux the most. It's like a polished Eon Flux as far as the visual style,
Yeah,
and
and
um,
it's disturbing.
yeah. But the world building is just
Oh yeah.
off the
It's like
charts. I mean,
how many drugs
it
did you
is
have to take to think of this?
it is Jim Henson levels of world building.
Yeah.
It's
And that's
in
what
the sense that
disturbs me.
every time they cut to a new scene, it's like the challenge or the program was okay. Every like you have something. Every single object has to defy your expectations. Everything has to have a twist to it, and it doesn't have to be a big dramatic twist. It has to be just enough to catch your attention. And it just I haven't seen that. I can't remember the last time I saw that solid and consistently unique world building across an entire series.
Hmm.
Like every episode has something new that just reinforces we are not in Kansas anymore.
Oh yeah. Like I
Um,
remember watching bits of well, like when I was first watching it and I was like, this thoroughly encapsulates what it would probably feel like to be lost in the jungle and you have no idea like what to do. Like
mhm.
it's just that alien, like
Yes,
and terrifying for you to be stuck in a foreign sort of landscape and then have to
yeah,
survive in a world that just wants
yeah,
to eat you.
yep.
But it's so
And
terrifying and disturbing.
yeah, and we've again a common refrain is going to be we've talked about this before
Hmm.
or over the years, but in general, I'm very much a monster of the week. I'm not a overarching story plot line. So like the idea that each show
Like an
is
anthology.
vignette is an anthology of three or four different storylines that yeah they may be working towards a goal, but every single one is a new encapsulated problem with a
Hmm.
resolution, good or bad. Um, that keeps hitting the buttons for me, and it keeps me engaged.
And I do love
Yeah.
anthologies. And when you mention Monster of the Week, I think what best encapsulates the difference and similarities between our tastes is you like that anthology a lot, which I appreciate. But my Monster of the Week is Supernatural. Like I want that repeatable formula that I can comfortably get into, and it's outlandish and dramatic.
Yeah.
But like that's more where I lean. But I also like the anthologies, which reminds me, you did you watch Love, Death, and Robots?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's another
like
good
that.
one.
I dug that, but there's a certain amount that I can take all at once because each like certain episodes will leave you going like, oh God, like, and you
Yeah.
just left me with that. And now I get that's gonna stew in my brain for the rest of my
Yeah.
life.
Creeping existentialism. I love it. Give it to me.
Nah.
Um,
No, it because it
yeah.
lives rent free in my head, and I'll just think about it all the time. And I can only handle that so much. I need to go back to explosions, you know.
That's fair.
Like I just need to go back to popcorn, Marvel, like predictable, just dumb things like that just go
Yeah.
boom. I don't know, but
Dumb things that just boom.
what?
Yeah.
Anything
And then,
else?
well, it was so new and recurring. I'm a huge fan of storytelling, fiction podcast, or I'm a big podcast guy. And I really enjoy horror podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily like horror movies. I know I just said Scavenger Ring is my new favorite, but I'm not a big horror movie person. I either like it in animation or I like it in podcast form, audio form.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Old Gods of Appalachia is just a really good modern Lovecraftian mythos style anthology podcast. It's been running for several years now, and it's just good. It's well written. It's well voiced. The storylines are interesting. Um, growing up in the South, I enjoy the setting as far as the Appalachian Mountains in the early 1900s and using the coal industry and the railroad industry. The premise of two industries dug into the deepest mountains in the world, or the oldest mountains in the world, and something's woken up, or they've
Mm-hmm.
unleashed something, and it's using it as a metaphor of just all those turbulent times in that particular area of the country.
Yeah, I know that
Just
you
well written.
introduced me to it with
Yeah,
with the
we went to
show.
the live
Like
show.
we went to the live show, and like although I wasn't able to catch on to a lot of it because some of it was a continuation, but the one
Yeah,
shot sort of ones are like they will
so
get
good.
you stirring up the imagination. Like and
Yes,
especially with the prose they use, the
yes,
descriptions
yeah.
and like
They
it can actually be some good stew for like hobby stuff. Like when we were
no,
talking about the train things, it's like that disturbing imagery that they conjure up, you can definitely translate that over to some Malifaux. Like
yeah.
it sits in that setting pretty well.
Yeah, no, it is right at home in that world of like, um, there are bigger things than you that don't care about you,
Hmm.
and any contact with them, just be grateful you walked out, or you
Yeah.
tell the tale. But there's a meme or whatever that makes the rounds on the internet, every so often, where it's like visual thinkers and they ask like the line of the apples and which one are you? And some people there's nothing all the way up to like a colored apple in a tree. And the spectrum is everything from a black and white line to a sketch to fully
Hmm.
realized. Um, have you seen that? Because not everybody
No.
can visualize in their head. Um, yeah, it'll.
Wait, what?
So the two questions that kind of make the rounds every now and again, and it's internet comment fodder, is one, so like if I describe a pink paint bottle, do you see the pink paint bottle
Yeah.
like in full color, full rendered
Yeah.
with the white cap? So like you saw
Well, I
this,
think of Squid Pink from
sure, but
yeah,
but you
yeah.
can see
I
it.
can see it.
And
Yeah.
if I said, okay, now take the bottle and turn it upside down, it's now upside down.
Hmm.
Squeeze the bottle and watch the paint come out. You can see the bottle and the paint coming
Yeah.
out. There's people, not everyone can do that.
So that's like not everybody has like an inner monologue. Like
That's the other one.
yeah, because I just
Does your
recently
inner,
yeah.
yeah. So
Huh.
what's on the spectrum of inner monologue? Do you have one? Some people don't have one. Other people, their inner monologue has a certain timbre in voice, and it might not be your
It
own.
might not be
And then
your own,
whose is
yeah.
it?
Because I used to always think everybody had one and it was in your own
Yeah,
voice. And it's like, what? That'd be weird if it was like,
mine's not.
what? Do you have
Mine's not in
like
my voice.
Samuel L. Jackson narrating it?
I don't know. It doesn't. It doesn't. I don't. It's not my voice.
It is a robot.
Do you have conversations with your inner voice?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like so do I. But again, not everyone does that. And
And it feels like I'm just
so
talking by myself, like, or to myself out
sure.
loud, but in my head.
Right.
Huh.
Um, but I guess circling back around. So when you run into, that's one of the reasons why I like, um, for me, horror podcasts more than others. They, the horror genre for me, they take it the extra effort to create the scenes visually
Mm-hmm.
for your inner eye, because that is what makes it horrific, right? So dramas, it's the interaction between the characters and the voices, and right. So but
Mm-hmm.
when you move into into the horror genre, it's all about, or it tends to focus more not necessarily on the interactions, but putting you in the place of the person that's
Experiencing it.
experiencing it. And so they
Yeah.
have to overly describe, what do you feel like, what does it sound like, what does it taste like, why does the character feel on edge, because they're truly painting
Mm-hmm.
a theme. And so it's very visual for me.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting too. It's like for me, I like to experience it more on a visual side that where they don't tell me, because everyone's experiencing what they see, say, in a horror movie differently, right? And like I appreciate and can translate that into, say, a hobby space or into creative side of things just by like the triggers it gives you visually, right? So like with an
Yeah.
audio, like whenever we listened to Old Gods of Appalachia, like I was trying to think of like how do you translate that to natural foliage on a painting or
Mhm.
on a base, you
Yeah.
know? So like it's interesting. Like I tend to want to absorb it visually through a TV show first, more so than a book. Like because I can't. It's really hard for me to sit down and read a book, but like
Yeah.
the same pathways, I guess, are happening when you listen to a horror podcast.
Mhm.
Like
I get the
it,
same from reading too.
yeah.
Like I'll, it's
Oh, okay.
different.
Yeah, for
But
me,
like
like
when I'm reading
I don't
something, I get the
visualize
same
the
visuals.
same things. Like they're just nebulous visualizations when I read a book. But when I
Oh yeah,
see it, it makes so much more sense if it's like the movie version
sure.
or the TV version. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Interesting.
it's definitely different. Um, all three of them. Now, and that's not to say one is better than the other, because when I watch something, I'm like, oh, I never even thought of it that way.
Yeah.
So there's always something to be gained for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
It's funny because we were just watching The Expanse last night and Christy was like, "Oh, that makes much more sense than what I was visualizing." Like they were changing transportation between the shuttle and the big ship, and it was like a series of ladders enclosing them, like a shark cage, so to speak, and they're just
oh, okay.
descending on the ladder. And she's like, "Oh, I just thought they were like floating in space with a rope or a cable or whatever." I'm like, "Yep, yeah." It probably makes a lot more sense that they would go from ship to ship that way, but that's exactly why
Yeah.
I like to watch the shows or the
Yeah.
movies more.
Yeah. I mean, again, as with all things, to each their own. Um, and you know, I also I like that right now, just because I'm never, I mean, when we sit down and do these, it's the most I sit down to focus on anything
Hmm.
during the week, and so I can roll around and get my errands done and all that, and listen to the podcast or a YouTube, and just
Yeah,
let it play while I'm doing something else.
yeah. Like
So
I tend to like for especially for hobby inspiration, like if I'm gonna be painting something, I just watch things that are adjacent to it to get my
mhm.
juices flowing. But when I'm actually painting, it depends. Like I remember one time I was painting and I wanted to invoke like stuff I'd seen on the show Shadow and Bone, which is based off a
Mhm.
book series. Yeah,
Yeah,
like because it to me it was like Malifaux incarnate. So I was painting a
yes,
Malifaux crew while doing that. I was like, man, they jammed so many genres in this, like
hmm,
that it felt like it was really inspirational. And I wasn't copying color schemes per se, but it was getting me in the mood of like when I would
yeah,
look up while I'm painting. I'm like, oh man, yeah, that's a cool thing I'm gonna incorporate here, like how they pop that color or that
Hmm.
style of steampunk right next to what is it, like Russian inspiration from the books. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty interesting, pretty cool. I wonder how other people, because you know everyone else like does some sort of form or fashion for like inspo for how they paint, whether it's 40K or Malifaux or whatever. Like
Yeah.
we're all grabbing from some other pool
Yeah.
of creative
You
art.
are the you are the sum total of your inputs.
Yeah, yeah. So I wonder how other people, I guess, get their juices flowing. Because me, it's always TV shows, like movies and stuff, and like some old stuff, and I rewatch them over and over again. If
Yeah.
especially if they really rang, like Altered Carbon's one I rewatch all the time. The first season,
Yeah.
because it hits like how other people say Blade Runner hits for them.
When are you gonna come over and watch movies?
Well, depends,
Or should I come over to your house and watch movies because you have a better TV than I do?
but we also have cats.
I'm okay with cats. I don't
Are
care.
you though? Are you though?
Yeah, because they're at your house.
Just we're not
True.
getting. I just think that you hate cats.
I don't hate cats.
Okay. If you don't absolutely love cats, you hate them. I'm just kidding. All right. Well,
Man, I love pancakes. Why do you hate waffles? What? What are you talking about?
I'm gonna do that to you several times,
Hmm.
and then I'll edit it so that you look like the butthole.
That's fine.
Oh
There will
man.
be plenty of opportunity.
So outside of that, I think we got a good amount for our main topics. What do
Okie
you want to
dokie.
do for random? Did you want to
What
do
do we
the
want to do?
bot roller or did you want to do a deck?
A deck. Let's do the bot roller.
All right.
No, I was saying that I really enjoy. So it's one thing to watch people's YouTube videos
Mm-hmm.
and Instagram feeds and stuff like that. And then, but when you see stuff like this, like these books, it's another way to kind of see inside someone's head
Mm-hmm.
and their attention to detail and where where they how they move your eye across the page and the intentionality or lack of intentionality or their world building. It's just fun. I just enjoy
Yeah.
this kind of ephemera of just like you know it's fun. It's
Well,
cool.
yeah, like I that's why I like getting like indie books and
Hmm.
like one of my favorites was Rogue Planet, which we've talked about a few times,
Hmm.
and I love the art from the book, but
Hmm.
like the fact that it's miniature agnostic and that you can like they kind of go into the heavy
Yeah.
metal side of things, but like
Well,
the
yeah.
the art invokes a different world, right? Oh, that's
So
cute.
okay, so the other thing I like about this, and this is definitely, I'm not doing this right. There we go. Um, he has he's really, in my opinion, he's really leaning into that, 90s zine kind of vibe.
Hmm.
Um, but he has an art style that is very consistent and he has leaned into it and he's made it his own. And I really, it's fun seeing people knowing kind of who they are and then just kind of letting it do what it's going to do.
Oh yeah,
And then every time they do something, you go, oh, in this case, this is a Bill making stuff product. And it
cool.
just instantly reads as theirs. It's
Yeah.
just, it's fun.
Well, like
Yeah.
now that you're mentioning, Bangarang, and that you expressed that you'd like to do the what is it called, bot bash?
Hmm.
So like, uh, in the hopes that you would maybe get it done, let's roll you up a
Oh,
well,
Lord.
well, we can roll
Okay.
both of us, and like we don't necessarily have to do the bot bash, but we could talk it out, as to what
Yeah.
ideas come up. So let me go
Yeah.
ahead and change it over to our table for two. Hey folks, Edit Ninja here. I had some audio issues with my camera at this time, so for this segment, I'm gonna mute myself and we're just gonna go ahead and do the random rolls.
We are rolling for the body. That is going to be spikes. Here, we're going to be rolling for the head next. Looking good. Immediately think Johnny Bravo. Like a big bouffant hair. We're going to arms. That is going to be pistons. We are looking at up yours. We're going to legs. Stumpy. Now we're doing the flavor.
And of course, I roll a 1.
It's rusty.
All in all, these are the prompts that we got.
Okay.
All right. So, instantly, it kind of works really well to have spikes with looking cool, because I think of like a metalhead, right?
Well, looking good.
Or looking good, right? So I think of like a rockabilly style for the head with like shades. But instead of just like putting on shades, using like rods and stuff to make it look like he has shades on, like how your glasses are rounded, right? You can make a sort of kind of like night vision goggles that end up looking like shades of some sort, like Natural Born Killers, Woody Harrelson's shades, like that. And then what was the other one that was cool? The pistons. That gives me like, I've been really wanting to do this, where you take two different size plastic rods, like because I have plastic rods that are hollow and solid, and then you can put the solid ones that are size smaller inside the hollow ones to look like, pistons, right? Like like hydraulics, sort of. Is that sort of the same thing?
Sure.
And then what was the other thing that was in there that was really cool?
Up yours.
Up yours. Okay, so with that idea, I thought of the whole, like all the appendages, the arms, the legs, they're all series of pistons put together using that technique of having solid rods inside hollow rods, or straws even. And then the hands have fingers that are just pistons, right? Like, and the other cool thing with rods is you can cut them in small little hockey pucks so that they look like the joints of these pistons. And then you cut it, and then so it culminates to the up yours is him giving a big middle finger, like with his fingers.
Yep.
Like with the pistons. And what else am I missing besides rusty?
Stumpy.
Stumpy. So you can definitely give it a sort of orangutan look, where the arms are super long and the legs are short, so that he's sort of like top heavy. And what else? Rusty. Other than paint job, like I actually would think of like trying to make parts falling apart on him. Like, you know how like when you have a rusted out shell, like bits of it are eaten away, corroded off? Like that would be a cool motif to go off of if you made, like if you got some straw and you cut it up, like that could be and made it look like it was corroded away. You can make it look like it had pieces that just were eaten off by time. I don't know what else you could do with rust other than the paint job, which would be a lot of stippling, right? And and then like not only can he be flipping off for up yours, you can make him like waving his hand back behind his hair, like he's slicking it.
Hmm.
Oh, that'd be cool if he was holding like some sort of machine comb doing that
Right.
while flipping you off with some tude, some 90s tude.
Does he? So does he have? So is his hair like a metal?
I would
That's
think
just the
like,
shape of like a bouffant, or would it be like
yeah,
a whole bunch of like hydraulic cables
I
that
would
like have been
actually
pulled
shape
back?
it like metal, but that would be
Yeah.
cool to also have the cables flowing back because then you could cover like continue that motif in other things that should have texture. But like my instant thought was like just smooth hair, like metal. But you can separate it by painting it like it looks like plates. But it would also be interesting
Hmm.
where because it's looking good and rusty, it could be two tone where it's like nice and clean at the top, but it's rusting away by the time it hits his feet.
Yeah.
Which also
Or like
makes
your
me
classic
think, what's that?
classic greaser, where
Yeah,
like clothes are all ratty, but like his hair is still slicked back and like
exactly. And then like
yeah,
not only that, that makes me think of the base. So it's clean, but then because this is supposed to be what a two human sized machine,
yeah,
like he could be in sort of an ocean like saltwater like dock area. So he could be corroding from the bottom up because he's walking through water, and you could be using like water effects, and or you could even sculpt the water. It's like he's coming out of like a, a either a dock or a
yeah.
beach or something, and then you can have like barrels in the water too. Oh, that's cool. All right, I got ideas. So you're making this, right?
I'm trying to like
Trying to visualize it.
yeah,
You drawing it out. Use your
yeah.
Procreate.
Eventually, I'm just trying to think like yeah.
Yeah.
So like I want like I like the idea of a small robot, a small stumpy robot that has like scabbed on pieces. You know, he's made him almost a helmet that looks like hair,
Oh,
or
that's cool.
and then you know, like if like yeah, and then the goggles don't necessarily have to be goggles, but they could just be his normal lenses, but they happen to look like that,
Like
or yeah,
like Ray Bans or something
like
like
yeah,
that.
like Ray Bans, but they're like two different depths, and then the jaw could be a separate piece that like gives him like the strong
That like double chin.
Chad jaw.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that like a lockjaw kind of thing, like a
yeah,
mandible. Oh, that's
yeah. But
cool.
then his legs are like this big, and then it's like, and his whole body is just like a sphere with 2 feet, and then the
How would you
arms, the
make
pistons.
spikes?
I don't know. So the spikes,
That throws me like I can
I
imagine
think,
it, but modeling wise, other than taking them off like my vampire counts models or chaos models, I wouldn't know how to model it. I mean, you can cut
uh,
triangles out of plastic card, layer them up.
well, you could do green stuff.
True. Like I thought
And
of
make
that for
them.
rounded spikes, like a cone spikes.
Yeah, you could just like you could. I was thinking for roundy. I swear that tonk is not going to survive.
It's not going to
Uh,
survive.
no. Ugh. So, but with a green, you could just like and
That's
then
true.
pull
Yeah,
them in,
yeah.
you tape
Pull it
them out,
apart.
and then once you bake them or they get them dry, you just sculpt your green stuff. Once it dries and sets, then you can come back and sand it and trim it and round it off.
Hmm.
And you can do
Well,
them different sizes.
so what would you
Where did
do
the
for
top
the
go?
up yours?
That I don't know. I mean, the middle finger obviously is right there. Um, yeah, I don't know if it has to be exactly the middle finger, but like
Something what modeling? It's
just
hard to
a.
not convey it without just a middle finger. Like what other ideas would we have?
I
Like
mean,
like doing this?
that's all. I was like, there's
Yeah.
that, so you could always just do whatever. or the classic Wolverine where he's doing that and like the middle claws coming out.
Oh, ooh. You could also
Or
have like like in Europe, it's like whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the British one. Yeah. So there's some riffs that can be done. But I like, and then spiky could also be, think like a studded metal jacket,
That's what I was thinking
like
of
a studded
originally.
leather, like a
Yeah.
studded metal leather jacket.
You can have it like on the
Have the studs,
shoulders.
and then you can just paint the idea of a coat.
Ooh.
Just have his paint
You can
job.
sculpt or use plastic hard to make like the mech armor look like a
Yeah,
jacket. Yeah.
yeah. Because the idea, I think the general premise is that these junk bots, I can't remember if they're sentient or not. I have to go back to the lore, but it's essentially gladiator. So it makes sense for it makes sense for them to be painted up. You could either say if they're sentient, they're painting themselves to mimic something.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not, it'd be just like pro wrestling where you found
Oh.
one thing and then you strap stuff on to create a persona around it
Mm-hmm.
and then send them off. So, it wouldn't be unheard of for them to have, just painted sleeves black and then stuck the
Yeah.
studs on or yeah.
Man, this is a
So
cool little exercise. Like
yeah,
to just
I
even
like,
talk it out.
yeah,
It makes
yeah,
me
I know.
wanna.
Yeah. So the prompt is always the fun part where you get the prompts and then you backfill the story. And then by backfilling the story, you get a whole bunch of yes and exercises that then lead you to something that is nowhere near to what you started with. And
Mm-hmm.
then and then this is just the idea phase. And so I'll start dropping a whole bunch of words and then grouping them together. And
Like,
then,
what would you mainly use for your body? Like for the main bulk of the sculpt? Like me, I would go digging through my bits box and try to find something that fits and like get some inspiration. But you're pretty good at scratch building, so I'm curious as to what you'd use.
I recently have started, I have a whole box full of stuff
Ooh,
from the kids. So as kids' toys break
yeah, you
or they
got
get rid
plenty
of
of
stuff,
parts.
yeah. So I don't
That's
know.
a that's a benefit right there.
Yep.
Because I know I've recently been getting into like scratch builders of people who make terrain from like dollar store
So
toys. Oh, that's a good round body right there.
yeah.
Well,
So
there
in
you
my head,
go.
the
Yeah.
first image that I had pop up was, did you ever watch Return to Oz?
Yes, the
That
wheeler thingies.
Yeah. So do you remember the brass bot from
Yeah,
Return to Oz? That's what was in my head.
the
Like,
big bulbous thing. Yeah,
yeah, the 10 like yeah. So that's what I had in my head.
man.
Um, and so I figured if that because that reads as stumpy to me.
Mm-hmm.
So um, yeah, and then take it from there. Get some feet, get him grounded, and then once I kind of get him grounded,
Then you scratch build
find
on top of that with like plastic hard if needed.
yeah, plastic card if I need to.
Green stuff's a good
Um,
one.
green stuff. I got a whole bunch of thin EVA foam. So I mean, if we're gonna participate or channel our inner Bills, he's a big fan of taking that thin EVA foam.
Mm-hmm.
The
Like the insulation phone? No, no, the
yeah,
gym phone.
like this stuff
Yeah, okay.
for cosplay. So he does a lot of work with this.
Huh. How do you harden
To
it?
add layers. You know,
I don't like
I
the idea
know.
of painting that.
Yeah.
No.
So one way
I'm
you
gonna
can
kit
seal
bash
it.
from like old models. Like that's probably what I
Yeah,
would do.
100%. So yeah, it's one of those like I've watched him do it so many times, and it's such a foreign it's such a foreign material. Like, I mean, I'll make kids, I've dipped my toe in cosplay stuff for the kids' Halloween costumes. And so, um, it's such a foreign material though
Mm-hmm.
for minis. It never
Yeah,
occurred to me to use it for minis. And he uses it all the time.
that's
I'll shoot you
interesting.
some link. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And now, granted, he hits the same section of his. There's a chunk of his video where it comes time to paint, and he's like, painting time with Bill is boring time with Bill, so it's story time with Bill. Um, and so if you watch his videos and you go through his back catalog, you can watch him develop as a painter. But I mean, he's not shooting for
Yeah,
Golden Demon,
yeah, yeah.
right? And so, for what he's doing and what he's accomplishing,
It's hitting the
it's
note.
really interesting to see him using the foam. So,
Well, like it's
um,
also because we tend to live in a tunnel of we're used to seeing miniatures in that context of like
mhm,
miniatures forward games that are like
yeah,
Warhammer,
highly
Malifaux.
polished.
Yeah, yeah, like where that's the medium, but like I every once in a while I run into folks who do them for like ceramics or like they do
Yeah,
miniatures that are like whimsical, which is not very much what I see all the time and like it helps me
yeah,
get out of my
yeah,
like my tunnel of seeing the same kind of dark brooding crazy stuff with
yeah.
these same
Well,
techniques.
if, so much like the book, he has got a very distinct style to his kit bashing,
Hmm.
and so
Yeah, I've noticed that.
it's homogenous, and I don't mean that in a mad way. I mean that is very consistent, and he is true to his world building.
Yeah,
And so, in
it's like a
the
style. Yeah.
yeah, and in his miniature style, it's at the same. It matches and vibes along with his animation style, so it all feels of a piece,
Hmm.
which I really respect because that's hard. That is
Yeah.
very hard to do. And the fact that he can do it, and I mean, he makes it seem effortless.
Hmm.
Effortless. I know that it's not. I mean, there's a lot of work and
Yeah,
there's a
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
effort and there's a lot of time and
But
attention,
that's
but the
like
way
the
he
mark of a
presents
good
it,
craftsman or
yeah,
skill, right? Like is
yeah,
to make things look
yep,
effortless. So, no, man,
yep,
this sounds. I just got. Oh, did you just drop a knife?
yep.
You safety first, then teamwork. But no, like this actually got me pretty inspired. I think I might have a spare model to kit bash from for that. So it's like 40 or 50 mil, right? This
Yeah.
would be interesting. This would be very, very interesting to do. I say we should go for it, but definitely not like
I can't get it done by the end of March.
no, no, no,
That's not
no.
going to happen. So do you
Let's
want to
but
say,
let's just say we keep each other updated. And what's a timeline that you think you could?
let's say shoot for end of April?
Okay, okay, yeah,
And then if nothing else,
it'll be fun.
so, if you want, we can also go radio silent on progress on these things and only show progress here.
Okay, yeah.
So no,
So
no
no
dropping
talking
in the
about
Google
it
chat.
outside of this podcast. We bring it up here, or
Yeah.
do you not even want to bring it up here?
No, bring it up here.
Yeah,
Only
yeah,
bring
yeah.
it up here.
Yeah, okay, okay. And we'll
So
only
we'll
share
bring
photos and stuff or
here.
or troubleshoot things here. All right. Well,
Yeah,
that's
we
good.
might kick ideas around in our Google
Yeah.
chat or in our
Yeah.
chat, but only show progress photos and stuff
Here.
here.
All righty.
So that way we can make it that our big reveal at the end. Okay, let's do it.
Yeah, for sure.
How's it coming?
Well, then that concludes our randomness. Do you have
Sweet.
any other things you want to bring up? Any plugs? Nothing like that?
No, I mean, just go check out filmmaking stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
That's fun. I have others, but for now, it's
All
this one
right.
I want to do.
Well, then we're gonna shoot for like what biweekly. Try to do biweekly.
Yeah, we can
Yeah,
shoot for
we can shoot
biweekly.
it for it. Do our best. So,
Yeah, I
folks,
mean,
what's that?
go ahead.
No, no,
No,
no,
nothing.
no, no,
Go
no,
ahead.
no, 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 no.
You first, man. Go
So,
ahead, no, after you.
folks, that's I think that's gonna be it for us. But had a good time talking, hanging out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, always, right?
Our inaugural episode.
Well, if you guys have any questions, comments, leave it down there and let us know what your thoughts are. We're excited to keep going with you and sharing our craziness. So
Mhm.
happy hobbying. See you later.
Yep. Later.
Bye.